Awesome. Yep. Well, hello, Rado.
Hey Nick, nice to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Long time no see. Yes, again
Yeah,
for
yeah,
everyone, if I'm sneezing or something, I got a small cold, so you will hear a very annoying sound, but hopefully not that much.
good, good. And I'm outside, so there might be some outdoor noise here as well. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it has been a while since we caught up, Nick, and people may be wondering what the heck have we been up to. But if they've been following our socials outside of YouTube, they probably see a few things that we've done, but we just haven't got together and done some video updates. And unfortunately, we haven't done newsletters either, um, which is another thing on our to-do list.
Exactly. Well, it's never too late.
Yep. So maybe we can just give a quick update on sort of the last 12 months or so. One of the things that I in particular focused on is what here in Australia the government has run a number of inquiries in Parliament. So there's Senate inquiries into different things, and so I've focused my attention on making sure that we've put in submissions to those inquiries so that our senators know not only what has happened to us but what our concerns are, um, including our concerns around vaccine safety and efficacy and those types of things, and the appalling treatment of many vaccine-injured people. So that's one thing I've been doing, but others have been making sure that we put out really good media posts to do with science, and some legal stuff as well about some of the class actions and other legal things happening around the place, so that the communities just gets a bit more aware of the solid science that affects us, and different things that are happening around the world with legal stuff. So it's been a busy 12 months. I mean, if I had a full-time job doing this, it wouldn't be much, but we're all injured, so it's all very part-time and very brain fogged, and so it happens slower than we'd like, but it's happening.
Exactly. Well, I mean, if you look at the covers, the whole organization grew up so much. When you see all of the quotes and everything else, like on another side, it's good to see that at least somewhere we are getting a bit more recognition. So as we discussed before, so some of the big pharma companies, they're already trying to say that, oh, actually, a few things happen. It's actually true. But what we talked about before, it's like it could be good and it could be also bad. So there is still long way to go. And another challenge, what we also had to chat about is the whole media space, because there's so many events that happen in the world that it's kind of hard to get attention back to what happened. Because if you check all of the headlines of newspapers, of all of the news channels, is about the world conflicts, but you need to scroll down just to find something which is related to jabs and everything else. So yeah, like we can't lose that momentum.
Yeah, that's right. It's unfortunate. We are very inconvenient to our
Exactly.
politicians and bureaucrats. So it's any other distraction is most welcome from their perspective, I assume. Um, but
Exactly.
we have
Exactly.
got some good traction. So just in the last couple of days, there was a huge story in the New York Times. First time ever they've covered the people who've been abandoned, and so that was done. Yeah, a couple of days ago. It was quite a good article, but it it was a bit gaslighty in that it very much left open the possibility that, well, maybe these people had something else that went wrong. It wasn't the vaccine. But I know those people personally, and I know some of their stories and their medical histories because we've spoken about it.
Mhm.
And it's very clear in their instances. It was not a coincidence. It was not anything else. It was very definitely the vaccine. But this article, like many articles that come out in mainstream, they acknowledge that it might be the vaccine, but they leave the readers questioning whether it could be something else, which is, I think,
Mhm.
is a bit poor. It's just typical gaslighting stuff, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe also a good idea to kind of give an update, like how do you feel? Because there are many people that have similar issue than that you had. Like how do you feel? Do you feel you're getting any better, or you feel you're getting worse, or like yeah.
Um, People who've been watching this channel will know at the end of 2022, I did or beginning 23, I can't remember. I did a video talking about some wonderful recovery that I'd had, and I was able to physically do a lot of things. Well, That lasted about 4 months, unfortunately, and then things
Oh
started to go
no.
backwards. So what I did, I was on a particular protocol, and I got really good benefit from it, but I didn't do it properly. I didn't do the test that was required to be done, and so I wasn't monitoring if I was actually improving with those tests. And so, unfortunately, I moved too quickly through that. So I got a temporary benefit. So I've been struggling since then again, but I've now restarted that particular approach, and things have changed. So I've definitely cleared up a few issues. My digestion issues are improved. Some of my brain fog has improved, but also some other problems have become a little bit more accentuated. And I think that's part of the healing process. You know, when you got something wrong with you and you heal, you get a bit of pain or inflammation. That's part of the healing. So I suspect that's what's going on. So I'll see in another few months, I'll be able to report back if that's been successful or not. But overall, I'd say, look, I'm definitely not better. My symptoms have shifted, changed a little bit, but still pretty incapacitated on the whole. I can do stuff like I'm outside at the moment at my kids tennis competition. I couldn't do that early on. That would have been impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like it's good to hear that at least it doesn't get really worse. So at least you're able to function.
Yeah. So I am lucky in that regard. I think most of us get some improvement. Some are even almost completely healed, but that's pretty rare, I think. But I also know some people who have continued to decline. And so when I hear governments and health agencies say, these reactions are mild and self-resolving, I just shake my head, because they clearly haven't spoken to a single vax-injured person, because if they had, they'd know that most of us, we continue to experience symptoms, and a portion of us get worse. So.
Exactly. Yeah, there's some crazy stories. Like they're literally people. Like there are people that died even after some time.
Exactly.
So it's horrible.
Yeah.
Really horrible.
There's a lot of emerging science as well. But I won't say that this is definitive at this time, but there's certainly some emerging science that suggests that some of the vaccines may have had some contamination issues, which the particular types of contamination could lead to, for example, a decrease in your body's ability to deal with cancers. If that turns out to be true, that's pretty serious. And then there's ongoing clotting issues. There was somebody here in Australia that I was speaking to recently that has had elevated clotting markers ever since day one, and it has hardly shifted, has not decreased, and it's a worry.
This is
ongoing
the scary
issues.
part. So you're saying this is something that also I was wondering, and you jumped on this topic. So you're saying that there are actually evidences that people who got some clotting issues, so these clotting issues, they will not just for some fixed period of time. You're saying it's almost like permanently.
Well, for some people, for others not. Like for me, within the first days, I had elevated clotting, but then subsequently the clotting marker, this is the standard D-dimer test, that went back to normal. And I think for most of us it is like that, but there are some people where it doesn't go back to normal. And then there's also the question of clotting that is not picked up by this test. Now, some people will say, well, that's not really clotting. Well, it's something in the blood that shouldn't be there, some lump of some sort. And they talk about proteins or various immune system debris that have all clumped together and is hard for the body to break down. So some people are calling them microclots. And they can be seen on specialized types of microscopes. But how prevalent they are and how significant they are is still a somewhat open question. But it's pretty clear that the people who've got some of these vaccine injuries and some of the long COVID, it looks like they seem to have more of these types of microclots than other people. So So, again, it's a case of, our governments say, well, these things are mild and short-lived, but we've got people with ongoing issues and some people where they have very clear biological problems that are picked up in tests that are ongoing and have concerning implications. So, I mean,
Exactly.
as a scientist, and I've worked with scientific organisations all over the world, and it's hard for me to fathom how they could make such definitive statements, yet it's not. Yet they don't examine a single one of us. They don't undertake any research investigations. They don't even speak to us. And so,
Yep.
how can they be making these statements? It's like science by wish rather than science by evidence.
Exactly. Exactly. And you see, have you got any correspondence from the TGA or other organization? Nothing, right? It's just a complete silence.
Yep. It's right.
If you think about that, when people complain that they have some issues, and like some other emails that I shared in the past, so when you're just sending them one email after another email, and then they don't reply, and then literally when you're asking for, I don't know, some other information, they just throw you a link and say something like, "Oh, we are sorry that you feel bad." So that's it, done.
Yep.
It's really hard. Like and after that, it's also very hard to believe in future. Like, what if it happens again? And so you also touch interesting point with the like D-dimer and all of the other specialized tests. And it's interesting to know that there are quite a few of these private test companies that are checking the blood for all of them. They're in different countries. They're all highly specialized. But even if they pick up some abnormality, like or just say on some cellular level or something like that, it's crazy that people still don't know what to do about that. So they can say, okay, this is the problem. So you have on this really low level some of the issues. It's here, it's here, it's here, but none of the doctors can do anything. What do you think about that?
Yeah, exactly. And I spoke to my GP about that. I said, look, should we go and get these tests? And he said, well, yeah, you could spend the money, you'd have a result, but then what? He said, we have no idea what to do about those results. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Well, I think it is still a good idea to collect all of these evidences. Like if you have any blood test, if you have any result, because there would be a point, like we all know that because it was very big, it was it was like the biggest, we can call it immunization operation on the global scale. And if you look at the past, it always comes at some point at the surface. So I think maybe, or just a minimum in 5, 10 years, there would be some other data. And anyone who has some evidences that, okay, they actually suffered some consequences, and they have either, or even the specialized blood tests, or they have some information about the GPs or something like that, they would be able to go to court because, or just say even I mean, it's just like, it's waiting for the right time when it's getting to come at surface.
yeah. Well, interesting to talk about court there. Here in Australia, in most parts of the country, there's a 3-year limit to sue, right? For medical harm. So people following this channel might realise that we had an opportunity in early February, to go to the Australian Senate and provide some evidence. And in their opening statement, Rachel made the points that the TGA here in Australia, they have a database list where people report adverse reactions. And of all the reactions since 1971 that have been reported to the TGA, almost a quarter of those reactions are the last few years just for the COVID vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about, like you and I, we've had other vaccines in our lives, and almost everyone in Australia has had multiple vaccines in their lives.
Yep.
And they've had other drugs, in fact.
Exactly.
And the fact that these particular products count for almost a quarter of all adverse reaction reports, there's no way that is not a safety signal, right?
Of course.
It's not just because we vaccinated everyone at once. Well, we've had multiple vaccines in our life since 1971. So, so there's a lot of nonsense arguments used out there to try and minimize this harm. But the fact is, nobody's acknowledging that this is a dangerous class of product, and it's
Exactly.
hurt an awfully large number of people, and that nobody who should be looking at this is looking at this. I mean, it's just shocking to me that, and I think all of us, that
Exactly.
nobody wanted to look.
Exactly. Yeah, you're completely right. And no, like there's absolutely no way of getting yourself, sorry, getting any support in this case, because we just go for normal scenario. Okay, so you got a jab, right? You got this permanent side effect. And then, for example, can you go to court? For whom you're going to court to, right? You can't go to court for the TGA. You can't go to court to anything else because first of all, it's going to cost a lot of money. You have to spend, you have to sell your house most likely to just get it done. But then you also mentioned this fact that 3 years. Yes, so if you're over 3 years, it's almost impossible now. So it's like literally there is a dead end. So it's now cope with all of this until the end of your life, or I don't know if you have enough people to, but I'm sure that we have enough people that are still continuing suffering all of the issues, like just the decision to overturn the 3 year ban, because it's literally a different situation, right? So we're not
Yeah,
talking about other types of drugs. We're talking about something which, as you said, 25% of all of the cases since 1970s to now, it's what happened with the jab. It's ridiculous. It is
yeah,
exception.
yeah. I think that this is exactly where government needs to do something. If we look back to the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers that went down in when was it, 2001? There was such a big insurance problem. The government stepped in and created a massive compensation program
Yeah,
because it was just too big for anyone to handle otherwise. So, and that's what we need right now. I mean, the government has a compensation scheme, but we know that 99% of people have not and will not be compensated under that scheme. So it's not fit for
yeah,
purpose. It's the same problem all around the world. So, but it needs government to come in and just be brutally frank and accepting of what has happened, and
yeah.
allow people to, a scheme that is easier to access and that compensates everybody, not just those who tick a particular administrative box.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly,
but yeah,
exactly.
there's still the class action happening here in Australia. We mentioned that on this channel before, and um, it's slow moving, unfortunately, because that's the way these things happen. But there is some progress. It's slowly making its way through the court. So during this year, we should start to see some action happening there.
Hmm.
I hope the government doesn't just drag that out. I hope they just recognise that these people have been vaccine injured and say, look, yes, you're right. We didn't warn you properly. We haven't looked after you properly, and we're going to make sure we do that. But I don't think they will. They've got too much of their credibility at stake if they admit that they did something wrong. So
Yeah, exactly. But also, as you mentioned, the credibility is one side, but another side is way too many people. It's not a coincidence. It almost never happened. It actually never happened before at this scale.
yeah,
So yeah, but the amount of compensation is going to be crazy if you think about that.
yeah,
It's going to be very complicated.
yeah. That's right. There's a few instances, like my case, other than elevated blood clotting, there was no definitive markers when I went to
Hmm.
hospital, which is many of us have faced that situation. But where my case is perhaps a little bit different, and there are others like me as well, is we had two vaccines.
Right.
So we reacted to the first one, and then we went and got the second one, and so that's called
Hmm.
re-challenge. It's like, okay, you tried this drug. Oh yeah, it could be just a coincidence. Let's try it again. And if you get the same reaction again, it was the drug. So there's
Hmm.
absolutely no doubt in my situation. But you were a bit smarter, Nick. You reacted, and then you said, no, I'm not having another one. And
Mm.
so your health is certainly better because you didn't get the second one. But without that second one, you didn't have that re-challenge. So it's a little bit more difficult, unfortunately. And I think a lot
Hmm.
of people are in that situation. When they reacted badly, they said, well, that's it. Hopefully cases like mine can prove that people like you, it wasn't just a coincidence, because we had the same reaction.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, it's just certainly not your fault. Do you remember when you took the first one, you got a bit sick, and I'm sure that you went to doctor to ask some questions.
Mhm.
I'm sure that you ask someone who is literally in the field, is it normal? Should I get the second one? And they all told you go, right? They
Yep,
all told you to go and
yep,
do the second
that's
one.
right.
So
And in fact, the word that was used from my doctor was, "This is not unexpected. We are seeing a lot of extended reactions,
right, extended reactions.
not serious reactions, extended reactions." So,
Yeah.
but I asked a specific question. I said, "Look, is it safe for me to get the second one?" And they said, "We
Hmm.
see no reason why it wouldn't be safe for you to get the second one."
Nice. Yes.
And I think the doctors have some responsibility there. I mean, they're supposed to be trained in critical thinking in medicine, and that was clearly a failure, at least in my case and
Yep.
in many others. But ATAGI, the Australian Technical Advisory Group for Immunisation, they put out the guidelines and the warnings for public health and for doctors, and then the medical colleges as well. They sort of take that advice and whatever they're seeing through the literature that's relevant, they put that out to the doctors. Well, unfortunately, ATAGI, they said, if you have myocarditis, don't get another mRNA vaccine, but go and get AstraZeneca instead. They
Hmm.
didn't say stop, don't have any more.
Exactly.
And in fact, they didn't say if you've had any serious reaction, that's a sign that you shouldn't take any more. They didn't say that at all.
Yep.
Their advice was, well, that's not a contraindication. We've told you what the contraindications are, myocarditis, Guillain-Barré syndrome, whatever. They're the contraindications. Unless you have one of those, you have to go and get a second shot. And that was the advice that Australian doctors got.
Yep.
And one of my GPs actually said that, look, we can only go on the advice we're given, and we were not given advice that what you experienced was something that was a contraindication. So ATAGI, the people at ATAGI really have a lot to answer for. Their advice should have been not only clearer, but also more accepting of the realities that people could experience almost anything caused by the vaccine. And that if somebody did have a suspicious reaction, they shouldn't go and tempt fate again. It wasn't that urgent. I mean, we don't need 100% of people. If the argument is about herd immunity, we don't need 100% of people to be vaccinated. The whole idea is you vaccinate those who can be vaccinated so that those who can't are protected.
Yeah.
Well, but that's not what they were doing. They were pushing everybody, even those of us who shouldn't have been vaccinated a second time. They were pushing all of us to get vaccinated to the umpteenth level. So, yeah, I think a lot of the advice that came down was pretty poor in that regard.
Exactly. And you're not the only one. When it happened to me, I still also remember. So, it was strange. It was something that never happened before, like all the heart rate and then muscle twitches that never resolved, and sometimes even worse than they initially were. And then when I went to a doctor, I remember, not just one, actually, a few doctors, everyone was just telling me the same thing. It's like, oh, look, don't worry about that. Like they saw the issues, but it's almost like they were told to just completely decline anything that happened and just you need to get the second one. You just must go and get the second one. And in my case, I believe that that kind of arose a suspicion when I saw that they were also blatant about going, asking you to go the second one. It's like, wait a second, but you haven't really assessed anything, so you don't know what's happening. You haven't even asked about any tests. Like you're so kind of brainwashed to propose the second one that it's almost like the only thing that matters. And yeah, it's like as I explained in other videos, like I had the Uber scheduled already to go for for the second one. And I remember I look at my legs that were twitching constantly. I look at all of the doctor's report and it's like, wait a second, like something is not right. Like what if the body reacted in a bad way on the first one? What makes you think that the second, like again, same thing that I said before. If you shoot yourself second time in the foot, it doesn't work. It doesn't heal. And you're right. You're completely right. It's also the responsibility of doctors So what happened to you, it's really not your fault because you try to consult. And as everyone said, just ask the professional, and that's the response of professional.
Yeah. So where to from here? We've got a few things happening this year. We're going to put together some more submissions, and if people go to our website, we might include it in the link down the bottom. A few links to it, some stuff. So we've got a web page that lists all of our submissions, and what that is, it's now evidence on the Australian parliamentary record of evidence from the vaccine injured community from CoVerse. And so that is a wonderful resource. So if anybody's putting together their own submissions, or they're putting together news articles or blog posts or whatever, they can use those documents. They're free, public. We can't stop people using it. It's public domain stuff now. So go ahead, cite from it, quote from it, whatever you want to do. We're also going to be putting together more support materials. So there's been a few things that we've been trying to get up and running, but with limited mental capacity and like you with work obligations and everything like that, we haven't completed everything that we wanted to complete. So things to help people go through the process of, say, getting an application for the NDIS or even a compensation scheme, and other things that maybe like superannuation, how to access the superannuation things that a person might have access to. So I think a lot of people are at the point where, 2 years on, geez, this isn't getting better, or I can't see myself returning to my full life. I need to look at all these options. But it's having never had experience with that before, and maybe nobody in their family ever having experience with those types of things before, they don't know what to do. So we hope we can put some resources together there. And then let's see what happens during the year. We hope that we're going to get some more political traction. That appearance in the Senate was great. That opened a few doors for us, actually, because there were some senators there who had not heard of us before, and it's their first opportunity to see, geez, we're just normal people who had something happen to us that shouldn't have happened to us, and the government has abandoned us. So there is some concern there amongst the Senate that we have not been treated properly. So let's see where that goes. But also with media, that's changing as well. We're hoping that there will be some more investigative interest into looking what happened behind the scenes, not to us, because our stories are out there, but what happened behind the scenes. Why did governments decide the way they did when these huge numbers of adverse reactions came in? Why were compensation programs designed the way they were when clearly they excluded a lot of people? So it'd be great to see some investigative reporting into those types of issues. With any luck, a royal commission will happen, but I won't be holding my breath. It's clear the government doesn't want it to happen. But other countries, there is some inquiries happening, and we'll see. So it's the UK, New Zealand. There may be stuff happening in the US. There's certainly some legal cases in the US which are very interesting. So so the course of this year, I think, will be an interesting one from that point of view. Let's say the truth will be dug into a little bit more, hopefully.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And you've done an amazing job with the parliament here. So if I was watching this video, definitely have a look in the past. In what was like just something like 3-4 videos back, right? You already posted it in the channel. So yeah, that one was incredible, because I think the CoVerse is the only organization that so far made it to parliament, right? In Australia.
Yeah, the only organization that represents vaccine-injured people.
Exactly. So it already made a history.
Yeah. So we deliberately set ourselves, we could have done a lot of different things, right? But we deliberately said we want to be a registered charity, so that we have and we abide by the guidelines of the charity guidelines, so that we will be taken seriously by, for example, Parliament and by government, so that we can then have a seat at the table. Now, we could have done a lot of different things, which would have made it very easy for people to dismiss us. But we're just normal people. We have a lot of gripes, obviously. We have a lot of concerns, and certainly a lot of anger in our community. But if we set up an organization along those types of lines with those types of emotions, then we just would have been completely dismissed. And so I think it's a real testament to the people who are on the board, yourself and Rachel and Naomi and Jackie, Melissa, and Julianne as well. Rational group of people who have an expectation that they will be taken seriously and conduct themselves in a way that is, it's serious and not over the top. So that's been a real huge thing, I think. And we had some good advice early on from some of the international people. They said, look, if you stick to this narrow bandwidth, people will listen to you. And now we see that happening. And the Senate appearance was hopefully the first of several interactions with our politicians on a major level.
Yeah, I do hope it's not the last one, so that we'll get a few more people on board with all of this. Yes, but it's definitely a historical event because the only organization in Australia that made it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's really incredible.
And I actually think at that time we were the first vaccine-injured organization in the world that actually spoke formally before Parliament. There have been others that have spoken to politicians, but not within the Parliament as a formal process. So, but that's changed now. There are other things happening there. There's evidence being presented by vaccine-injured people in other official forums happening around the world. So it's not like we're the only ones who've had success in that area. But so it's interesting. We're now talking with a few other countries where they haven't organised themselves yet, and we're hoping that we don't want to interfere and tell them what to do, but we want to share with them our experiences from different countries so that they have a bit of an idea of what's possible. And then they can decide the way they want to go forwards and represent themselves. And I know at the very beginning, when you and I and the others got together, we said we want this to be an organisation run by vaccine-injured people, for vaccine-injured people, speaking with the voice of vaccine-injured people, rather than others speaking for us or others organising us in a way that suited them. So It was 100% about us, and there could be no question about that. That was very important to us.
Exactly. Like, if it didn't happen to you, it's really hard to kind of grasp the whole situation. And it's like any organization which is led by people that have not experienced that, it's a big set-off. That's for sure.
Yeah. So maybe we'll wrap it up there. It seems like a bit of a long video already. And you need to blend those.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, so far so good. Again, apologies for me cleaning my nose. It's just got a cold, but hopefully it's going to be fine. Thank you very much, Rado. It was an amazing conversation. So again, I hope that it's just going to move forward and we'll get much more investigation. But even when we compare things happened in the past, it's moving. It's definitely moving. It's not stagnating. Yeah. So if anyone has any comments, just pop in comments below, everything else, and then you can keep in touch. You can send emails because people are still sending emails with their stories and everything else. And thank you very much, and hope to see you again, Rado.